It is 5:30, we need to call the meeting order.
There we go.
Mr. Viera?
Here.
Dr. Vogt?
Here.
Mrs. Wittes?
Here.
Dr. Selly?
Here.
Mr. Dangler?
Here.
And I hereby certify that this meeting has been published in the newspapers in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act and posted as required by law.
Thank you. The first thing we have on our agenda for the workshop, the census, and a report by Ms. Garcia. How you doing?
Hi, hello. I
Hello.
brought paper. I'm a librarian. So I made a packet of information for you all about the census because there's a lot to cover and I don't have time tonight. So if you have any questions afterwards, feel free. You're welcome. I think you're in have all that. There you go. You're welcome. So really quick, I just want to give a recap, and then Anita is going to follow after about the council's role. But I just want to give you a recap of what we've done so far and how we got to this point with the census. And if you have any questions, let me know. But so a few months ago, I reached out to Mayor Pallone about ALA, which is the American Library Association's request that libraries reach out to their municipalities administration to kind of take the helm with the census and to help out in any way that we can. And I have information on the right about why libraries and how libraries are playing a part in this. And it's just interesting stats that 99% of hard to count census tracts have a public library located within 5 miles of it. And in 2010, for the census, libraries hosted more than 6,000 outreach sites. So we're well positioned to do this. So I sat at a meeting with Mayor Pallone, the Census Bureau, representative from the Census Bureau, representative from Congressman Pallone's office, who's also taken the lead in this, and some reps from the city. And we talked about a complete count committee, which there's information in your packet about what a complete count committee is and how to establish one for each municipality. And I asked to be appointed to the chair of that committee, so that's how what the library's role is in it. On the left of your packet, I provided documents, general documents on the census. This is the first year that the census will be online, so that's really important. It's going to be in 13 different languages. And of course, as you know, the library, we have about 35,000 visits per year using our public computers and Wi-Fi, and 10,000 visits a month. So I suspect that we'll get a large amount of people coming in trying to take the census online, which is a good thing. Also, if you look on the left-hand side, I provided general information about New Jersey and how much funding we receive because of the census. This is a really interesting document. Out of the $22 billion, it'll show the major programs that we receive and how they're funded by a direct count from the census. So our Medicaid, federal, just some of the largest ones, the Medical Assistance Program, which is Medicaid, SNAP, Highway Planning, Federal Pell Grants, Section 8 vouchers, Special Education Grants, the lunch programs, low-income home energy assistance programs. All of this is on the document where it says New Jersey. So that will show you kind of why it's so important that we get an accurate count for the census. This one right here.
Oh.
And then just to let you know about Long Branch, Long Branch is considered one of the hardest tracts in the country to count. So we've already been contacted by the Census Bureau. And only 70% of households in Long Branch mailed back their census last in 2010. So we have a lot of work cut out for us, and it's so important. So that's kind of the information on the left is about the census. There's a timeline, what's going to happen, and how it's being administered by the Census Bureau. And then lastly on the left, this is just really I love this sheet, but this is what is going to go out and be publicized to the public from the Census Bureau. But it's a real simple answers to the questions, like how are you going to do it? What's in it for me? Is my information protected? Is it private? That sort of thing. As of today, the question of citizenship will on the census. I know that's been going back and forth at the federal level. As of today, it won't be. I know ALA championed that with the Census Bureau and actually helped in court. And then on the right, it's kind of why the library, how we're involved, what have we been doing. And then again, just to give you a recap. So what the library did was we held a meeting, our first meeting at the library. We were asking that different organizations come to the table. So right now we have the schools represented. The schools are there. The BR Health Center was at the meeting. Rob Ferragina was at the meeting from the city. Lindsay was at the meeting. And then what we asked was that each person go out to the community and kind of bring back one or two organizations to the table to help us get an accurate head count. So we have a host of people that we're going to invite, including but not limited to Jake Jones, the Senior Center, Carl Jennings, Alex Maldonado is from the Representative Congressman Pallone's office, Victor Alvarado, which is the Department of Veterans, Bruno Machado from the Portuguese Club, Latin American Association, Coastal Communities. Then we, faith-based is so important. We have Second Baptist, St. Luke, St. James, Christ the King Parish, Trinity AME, St. Michael's, Long Branch Covenant, and on and on and on. So we have invited, and then Brookdale Community College and the Chamber. So again, if you can think of anyone that you'd like at the table, that's gonna help us get an accurate count. And the hardest to reach populations right now are youth and new Americans, and so that's where we're at.
Tanya, before Anita jumps in, can you just, you mentioned how important it is, but for example, from the last census, my understanding is that New Jersey lost some significant funding. We lost the congressional seat in 2010, so,
yes.
Again, that just moves somewhere else away from us.
So important. So that being the top three, and that's in here as well as to why it's so important for us. But federal funding is important, and it determines how many representatives each states get. Communities rely on census to plan for funding. Residents' needs, grants, and businesses use census data to help provide more local jobs. But there's a whole bunch of information as to what it covers and how. So very important. Libraries all over the country are doing this and working to help make sure that everybody counts. Some of the things that we are asking the organizations to do is to hold an event in their organization to try and drum up some publicity. We're going to do an event at Community Day. We're doing Long Branch Counts as a hashtag. We're also going to ask our elected officials and some stakeholders in the community that once they take their census, if they can do like an I counted hashtag, and that can drum up some support as well for it. So we're just kind of brainstorming right now. We're pretty well ahead of the curve if you look at the timeline. They're asking to start in January of 2020, like really pushing it, so I think we're ahead of the curve.
I have a question. Have you reached out to the Housing Authority as well?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay, before Anita gets her 40 seconds, please put down the NAACP, because we'll certainly be a part of it. And second thing is W.E.B. Du Bois, that is a nonprofit that I am chair of and formed.
Okay.
Also Delta Sigma Theta sorority. We already agreed to partner to work. Obviously, we're going to have to work with the city too, so we know that there's going to be a partnership. So put us on the list.
Yes.
Tasha Brown, she's the contact for Delta, and I was the contact for W.E.B. Du Bois. The other two things that I have is we would like you to consider having some evening meetings, because the people, they say the pastors, they're full time, they can make their meetings. Some people, jobs would allow them to do that, but when you're talking about the community and getting involved, you gotta have some evening meetings, so we can get involved and get all the information from the beginning instead of coming in, after the fact.
Absolutely.
And the count committee, how do you please?
Yes, so here's the information on the Complete Count Committee, that brochure. There's two types of committees. There's a municipal committee that you can form, or a community, just a kind of a community volunteer. And Census Bureau provides all the information you need. There's social media graphics, there's toolkits, there's timelines, there's publicity. Almost everything you need to form one is on here. But if you do the municipal, count committee, they kind of give you, this whole booklet is kind of how to run the municipal one, and it'll tell you who to bring to the table, what's the timeline, what events you could have, and suggestions and so forth. So, the mayor appoints the chair, and then you kind of bring heads of community organizations, faith-based, all the people we've listed here, public school system, regional associations, and so forth. So that's what we're doing.
And that's what we have, right, Tanya?
We have a
Yeah.
municipal count
And we
committee, and
can
not every
add to
municipal.
that as
Yeah.
well,
Excuse me?
right? We can add to that as well.
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah.
yes, we're hoping that it's really, and my feeling is that this is really not, this is kind of a group effort throughout the entire community. If we're gonna get an accurate count, we have to bring almost every organization to the table and really try to push this out throughout the city. I don't believe we've had a count committee, and many municipalities opt out. It's not that everyone has one, so.
Okay.
Yep.
Again, just please, put us on your list of community partners.
Great idea, yeah.
And we're ready to go.
Okay, perfect, thank you so much, thank you.
So for
When
my,
we get into it, Tanya, we're gonna put it on the website.
We're gonna have it everywhere, posters, websites, social media, like I said, all the organizations, we're hoping have events, and really just brainstorming. We're all just bringing all these ideas to the table. Each organization, they all had wonderful ideas, the schools are gonna do something. So I think it's just really a community collaborative, no one's really taking the lead, we're kind of just coordinating all the paperwork and research and stuff.
And Bill, Anita's got a plan for all of this, that's why she's here tonight.
Exactly.
For
She
us
probably-
individually.
She probably gonna finish it though, cause she only has a couple minutes.
well,
You're up.
in my 40 seconds, first of all, thank you for volunteering for that, all the representation that you said you would do, which was the whole idea of being on the agenda, you know, to bring it to the administration, because we're on there as a group to be very active with this. At some point, maybe we can, actually, you know, sit down and talk about a few more specifics. But we were hoping that, Mary Jane, you know, outreach to the senior citizens, outreach to the veterans, if you could take, a lead on that. Now, lead is yet to be, defined, but certainly, you know, all of your connections there would be wonderful. Billy, all the things that you mentioned, Mario, certainly outreach to the Portuguese, community. I don't know if it's education, I'm not sure which is the right constituent group, but for all of us to, you know, pick that group. Mine, you know, is, of course, education, and also just, outreach, working with Luciana in particular, in terms of outreach to, more of our immigrant community. And certainly for the mayor, in terms of obviously the whole county, yeah, the whole city, rather, you know, making people understand what the census is all about, the importance, and helping them participate.
Very good. Sounds good. I'm impressed. You practiced.
I did.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Jackson.
Thank you, Council President. I wanted to discuss fees that are charged by the city, and to give you a little background, on August 5th, our most recent department head meeting, I talked to all department heads about going back and reviewing the fees for their respective departments. And in general, these fees are applied for services rendered, for documents that we provide to different people that have interaction with the city, permits, and other types of activities. Some of these fees have been unchanged for several years, some for decades, and I just asked them to go take a look, see if they feel that the fees are current. If they're not current and they feel that changes and most likely increases would be appropriate, I asked them to survey other municipalities as a point of reference, a frame of reference for us to see how we compare. I can tell you without being specific, one department had done this already, and that kind of spurred this conversation. And we charge, well, there are other towns that for a very similar service charge 50% more than we do. And I just took a quick look tonight. There's and I won't be specific because these are all to be discussed later, a significant fee that we charge to certain users. We only charge a third of similar municipalities, and they're significant fees. So what I wanted to do was talk in very, very general terms and get your consensus that we should move forward, compile this information from our department heads, and then I would share it with you. I would send you the results, their recommendations, give you time to digest it, and then we could have a discussion at a later date as to which items we might want to take action on. But this is something that needs to be done on a regular basis. We're no different or worse than anybody else. It just falls by the wayside, and then what happens is a municipality will make a dramatic increase because they're 15 years behind the times. So what I'd like to do is, if this is agreeable to you, is really get our department heads to work on it and share it with you before our meeting, whether it's the next meeting or the meeting after, and let you look at it, and based on your input, we would then move ahead on some changes.
Does that include summonses too for the police department?
Well, summonses, most of them are dictated by the state.
Correct.
And I did put that in my notes. There are fees, construction fees. A lot of these are controlled by state agencies. DCA sets some of these fees. So there are many that we won't be able to move on because we just don't have the authority to do it. And some of these are locally controlled. So motor vehicle summonses, ordinances, we have control to a certain degree. And usually our borough ordinances, there's a range, a minimum and a maximum, and then it's up to the judge what she wishes to charge for those. But I just wanted to see if that was agreeable to everyone. If so, I'll ask the department heads to put that together, get it to me, and then I'll share it with all of you. And you will have other towns to compare to see where we're coming from.
Okay.
And I'd like to do it across the board, and whatever you're comfortable with, we would move forward on.
Okay, but
Do we need a consensus on it?
I see a lot of heads nodding, but I think
I'm
that's.
okay with it. It must be good.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm good.
that's okay. So
Okay.
we will move ahead, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions in regards to the regular agenda?
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay.
The resolution authorizing the execution of redevelopment between the City of Long Branch and Gemstone Apartments. What was that all about? Cause I'm not familiar with it.
So, this is the Belmont, in fact, I was just going through my agenda. Was the agreement circulated to everybody?
Yes,
Okay, because it wasn't in my packet. it
online,
wasn't-
and they give a hard copy.
Okay, yeah, I just made sure you had it. So this was the Belmont property. It is it's a small redevelopment that is being done. There's no tax abatement as part of this. They made a presentation here, if you
I knew,
recall
I think
sometime
I
back.
missed that, so that's what I'm asking.
Yeah, it's a small multifamily housing development. I'm just scrolling through to find out the exact details, and it with some retail on the bottom. Is that correct, George?
Yes.
I think like
Mixed
57
use.
units.
That's
Yeah.
that's on the corner of Belmont and Third?
Third,
Yes.
on the corner of
Yeah,
Belmont
I
and Third,
remember.
correct.
Right across the street from the post office.
Correct, right across the street from
Where the
post office.
churches? Is
No,
that-
it's where the
No.
glass building was.
where the
Oh,
glass,
glass.
glass company used to.
Oh,
Correct,
okay.
correct.
Yeah, across from the dollar store.
So they're gonna be apartments on top and then
And retail on the bottom, correct.
How many bedrooms will be apartments?
They are, I believe that they are a mix of 1 and 2 bedrooms, and I think there are a couple of 3 bedrooms also.
Are they
About
gonna,
30, I think, right?
About 30 total.
are they gonna have an impact on our school system at all?
The answer is I can't guarantee you no, but the experience has been that they're not, so,
Are they high end?
I don't know, I don't think that, we don't really get into the issue of what they're gonna rent them for, I don't know. I would imagine that they're gonna be, it's gonna be a nicer building, so I'm assuming they're gonna be a little bit higher, yes. But they're gonna pay full taxes.
And how many units were there?
30.
30.
So, do we, that whole, affordable housing, component will be applicable to this, Lou?
Mhm.
Okay.
Correct.
Just because we kind of end up with discussing this often after the fact, it's the idea of the things that we want to ask for Long Branch, and I think one of our previous meeting before, we kind of, seemed like we were zeroing in on really wanting to focus on the community center. But where I'm going with this is there any
No.
request
No, it's
in here?
because there's no tax
There's
abatement.
no tax abatement, this is
Yeah, straight,
strictly.
this is, they have an as-of-right zoning there,
Okay.
and there's no tax abatement requested, nor was any given, no
So because of that, then we don't ask for anything, is that
Well,
what
you don't
we're
have the
saying?
ability to just ask for a contribution if you're,
If we don't have
Right.
those.
We're not giving up anything.
I didn't understand it that way. How about the idea of local hires? Have we said that, or?
well, I think I have to go back and see whether or not we ultimately put that language in. Normally on buildings that are this size, it's very hard with a small, Mary, you might know better than this than I do. On a small construction site like this, it's there's not a lot of, this isn't hundreds of units, there's not a lot that
It's
you
only
can.
30 units and,
I mean,
it's hard to get anybody, I mean,
The-
you talk to them, they'll hire some local help, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? But it's, the small project like this is.
Yeah,
not-
you know what,
This is a classic small redevelopment, right? You're taking a site that was, essentially an eyesore and
Yeah.
you're redeveloping it for clean
Yeah.
housing, retail.
Yeah.
The purpose of this is to encourage those kind of infill redevelopments.
Mhm.
These are not the kind of projects where you say, because if you layer all of those things on, then the important purpose here is to get the redevelopment done.
Yeah.
What about the
I'm-
parking situation?
They met all the time.
They met all the parking requirements.
You do? Okay.
There's already another one across the street approved for tax,
Mhm.
they've been approved for years now.
Probably
Exactly
is.
across the street,
You
the
know,
other side of the
if you
block.
wanna, this might be a conversation we did better for executive session, because
Okay.
you're really not talking about some contract negotiation issue, so.
Okay.
So maybe can we carry this to the closed session, Council President?
Yes. Anything else, any other concerns or questions regarding the agenda for this evening?
I'm good.
I'm good.
Okay.
MJ?
Oh, I'm fine.
Okay. Can we, have a motion? Adopt the resolution going into,
Need a motion to close the meeting
So
first.
moved.
So move, second.
all those in favor? Opposed? Then we need a motion to adopt a resolution to go into executive session for the following items: litigation, personnel matters, and attorney-client privileges.
And contract negotiations.
Oh, and contract negotiations.
So moved.
Second,
Mr. Viera?
yes.
Dr. Vogt?
Yes.
Mrs. Wittes?
Yes.
Dr. Selly?
Yes.
Mr. Dangler?
Yes.